Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the CJ Miller Show on Green Heart Radio. My name is CJ, also known by many as Claudia, and I'm actually looking for the date on my phone. Is this crazy? January 30th. It's Tuesday, January 30th, and welcome to the CJ Miller Show with my very special guest, Magenta Pixie. And I'm so excited to have her on my show. We have been trying to set this up. We almost had a show January 2nd, but Magenta was a little under the weather then, so we had to reschedule. But I think we've rescheduled for the perfect time because, as you might know, this is the time of tomorrow is going to be a blood moon. It's also going to be the blue moon, which is the second full moon of the month. And this is a very important time, and so it just couldn't be any better. So I just want to say thank you to all of our wonderful listeners for joining us today. I'm so excited about having a lot of new people listening to the show and all of Magenta's followers. So let me just get into a little bit for introducing Magenta Pixie to all of you. So in case you haven't heard of Magenta Pixie, I really suggest you check out her website, which is magentapixie.com. And let me tell you a little bit about her. So Magenta is a consciousness coach and intuitive consultant and a channel for the white-winged collective consciousness of nine. Magenta started channeling the white-winged collective consciousness way back in 1993. Although they weren't called the White-Winged Collective Consciousness at that time, she knew that it was very important for her to start doing special things for the collective, even when she was getting messages. It's more than 20 years ago now. She knew that she had to do something very important to help humanity, and now is the time. So Magenta started doing her videos with her channelings back in 2008. And I have been a fan of hers since, I think, 2011, or maybe even earlier. I always loved listening to her videos on YouTube. Check her out on YouTube. She is awesome. Just to give you a little more information about Magenta, I'm going to check out what I have here. You know what was very interesting to me? So go to her website and check her out. If you're listening on the computer, you can even look at it while we're doing the show because she's got so much interesting stuff. But what I find very interesting is that, as you know, Magenta is from England. She lives in a place called New Forest, which I just think sounds so cool. And, you know, obviously with a name like Magenta Pixie, you imagine that she's somebody who's very comfortable with things like fairies and pixies and all the new age information. Well, definitely. And even from when she was a very little girl, Magenta was speaking to fairies and comfortable with the idea of pixies and wanting to access that other world. Well, she has become quite a bridge for us. And now, you can't go anywhere in the New Age community without finding out about Magenta Pixie. I feel like she's a superstar for our community. She's just wonderful. I have gotten so much from her in a feeling of that everything's okay, everything's going to work out. And I am so excited to have her here on the show with us today. And I'm sure we'll get into other information that I haven't covered yet about who she is and what Magenta is here to do for us. So without any further ado, I am going to welcome Magenta onto our show. So hold on a minute. Where are you? There you go. Sorry about that, Magenta. Okay. Hi, Magenta. Welcome to the CJ Miller Show.
Oh, hi, Claudia. Thank you so much for inviting me. I haven't done a blog talk radio platform for a while, and I love it. It's my absolute favourite. I love blog talk, and what a lovely introduction. when you're talking about me, it doesn't sound like me, because I feel like such just, an ordinary everyday person, and I'm hearing all this stuff about me, and I'm like, wow, that's so nice. And I also agree with you that we chose the perfect day, the day before this fantastic full moon energy that we have tomorrow. And I was only thinking earlier, divine timing. I went down with flu at New Year, which is why I had to cancel our previous show. And so I think the divine timing is fully spot on, and we are supposed to be connecting today.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it is a really exciting time. And when we first had connected, Magenta, I just got an intuitive hit that I wanted to have you on my show. It was funny because we were both on the same show, which was Andrew Fisher's show, Reality, something. I can't even remember the name of his show, which is too bad. But he's got a really cool. Andrew Fisher. He used to be on Blog Talk, but he had both of us on his show, and he had you on right after me. And I think he interviewed you only because I kept talking about you in my interview, when he interviewed me, because I just feel like you and I are very much in alignment. And especially with accepting the polarity and the duality and not getting so focused on that. What I've always really appreciated in the way that you present your information is that as much as you are definitely a person of the light, and I consider you very much in 5D, you're not afraid to talk about the dark that exists and to look into it and to embrace that. And I just find that I feel so comfortable with the way you bring things up. It never brings me to a place of fear or worry. I always feel more relaxed when I listen to your information and the wonderful guides that you bring forth, the White Wing Collective Consciousness of 9. So I just want to say thank you. And, we're all here today. We're all so excited to have you with us. So I'm so happy that everything's working and the timing is perfect. So, since we don't have a lot of time, I would love to go more into your history, but I'm afraid that I want to make sure that we have enough time for our people to call into the show and ask you questions. So if you could give like a really short, I think people have asked you this before, can you give a really short biography of yourself for the show, which sounds sort of crazy because I know you have a lot of information to share, and you're not a child. You and I are about the same age. I have to say, you're born 1965. I'm 1967. So, so you have a lifetime of, and I've read so much of your information, and, I mentioned that you started channeling. Maybe we should just preface it with who you're channeling, and for those who might not understand what the White Wing Collective Consciousness of 9 is there a way that you can describe that for our listeners?
Yes, okay. I can whiz through that. And if anyone's interested in my history, obviously I've got that written down on my website, and I have done lots of interviews where I've discussed the whole journey quite extensively, so I can go through that quite quickly. And I agree with you, it's important to have questions today, so we're in the here and now with the way everyone is thinking. So very, very quickly, I went into a conscious channeling situation. I consciously decided that I would like to channel after reading a book. I mean, this isn't the beginning of the story. There were tons of synchronicities in my life leading me to that point right from childhood. But I got to this point in my life where I consciously decided this is what I want to do after reading this book. So I went through these exercises, which were meditations. And after a long period of time and much discovery and connecting with other beings, I finally made a connection with this beautiful, loving light being that was presented as, the spirit guide, the one true guide. And after a few weeks, not very long, of working in meditation, connecting with that guide, I then, most surprisingly, without intending for this, I expected my communication to be through meditation forever. And one day, I could communicate in the waking state, and it was a great shift within me. I didn't have to go into meditation anymore, so I found that this being, this light being that I was talking to, this spirit guide, was there with me while I was awake. I now know that this simply is a change in brain waves. When you go into meditation and you calm down and you're relaxed, you go into a different brainwave state, and the brain remembers this state, just like the muscles remember when you exercise. So after a while of communication in meditation, you will be able to do this in the waking state, and it simply means that your brain is able to go into a meditative or hypnotic state while you are fully awake. It's actually the divine right for every human being to be in this brainwave state. This is completely and utterly natural and normal for the human being, something that has been kept from us, but this is our true presentation as a human being. So to go forward very quickly, I worked with this light being for several years, and then around 2008, this being told me, he was from the fifth dimension, that he would be leaving me, and another guide would be coming in that was from the sixth dimension. I was really upset about this because I'd worked with him for so long, but he explained he wasn't going anywhere. It was simply an upgrade, and it was simply because my brain waves and DNA structure were changing form, so naturally the presentation of that is the guidance that comes to you. So this fifth dimensional being morphed into this sixth dimensional being that presented like a large white angel with big feathery wings. And then after a very short time, this one morphed into 9. And that was around 2000, and it was around the year 2000, 2001. So I worked with them for several years. And although I'd had visions of speaking into a microphone with a headset on and talking to people all over the world, mostly in America, I didn't really know what that meant. And although the vision was very strong, I thought perhaps it just was my ego thinking, oh, one day I'm going to talk to lots of people. I didn't have a headset or a microphone, didn't have a computer. This was when the visions first came. Obviously, I had the internet by 2008, but I'd sort of got to a point where I was really happy with my connection with the 9. They were there for me, and they were talking to me about everything, and everything I researched, I would talk to them, and I was given all this knowledge, and I didn't really put 2 and 2 together. I didn't really think I'm supposed to deliver this information to anyone else. I did in the beginning, but after so many years, I'd got so used to working on my own, and I'd got so used to keeping it quiet, keeping it hidden, not telling people what I do, not telling people that I channel in case they think I'm crazy. So I kind of kept it to myself, except for a very few people. And then in 2008, they said to me, it's time to go public. And this was a very profound conversation I had with them sitting on my bed with a very clear connection. I said, go public? What do you mean? And they were saying, it's time to tell everyone. And I'm like, you mean tell everyone that I talk to you and what you say? Yes. And I said, well, who? Who do you want me to tell? Like, everybody. And I said, you mean like a group somewhere? Or no, everybody. And I said, you mean, I don't understand. And they pointed to the internet. I thought, oh, I'm supposed to connect with a group on the internet. I still didn't realize I was supposed to talk to people about the 9. I thought I was looking for a group. I spent a couple of weeks looking around the internet for some spiritual groups, and that's when I stumbled across some videos by Risa 5 on YouTube, and he was doing all this amazing sort of stream of consciousness talking. I know he doesn't really like the word channeling, but that's how it seemed to me. And I just said to my partner, who was at that time really wanting to do some creative editing and upload videos to YouTube, which wasn't my thing. I wasn't really interested in YouTube at all, but I found Rice's stuff, and I said to my partner, if I did some of my channeling and spoke to the 9 and recorded it, could you make a video for YouTube? He said, oh yes, I'd love to. So I started my YouTube channel and started bringing the 9 forward, doing some recording with this sort of cheap $1.99 microphone from Argos, and just sort of plucked this username out of the ether. Magenta, yeah, that's my Pixie because I like the Pixies. That will be my username. I really had no idea. I really didn't have any idea that I would have lots of people subscribe, and that eventually, I would be talking all over the world in different ways and writing books. And I kind of knew deep down inside, but I didn't really know consciously. I followed the guidance of the nine, and that's the story, really.
What a great story. I'm so happy that they told you to come public. And I know that must have been not an easy step to make. And I hear what you're saying about people thinking you're crazy. We just have to get over that, I guess, right? Because if you didn't, you wouldn't have come out with all this information. I mean, what if you had stayed in your ego and been afraid to expose yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nine trained me so well, and I worked with them so intensively for so many years that I kind of had got to the point where I really didn't mind if people thought I was crazy or not. I just felt that I should keep this to myself, not just for my sake, but for their sake, because if they weren't able to understand that, or if it was shattering their paradigm or their religious beliefs, and even now I do this. If I meet somebody who I feel is not expanded enough to interpret what is happening in a safe way, and if it's going to cause them harm, then I will sort of edit my conversation. But when it comes to the go public thing, what they actually said was, there are many guides and collectives like us, and they are all telling their conduits the same thing. It's not just me. And they showed me, and I was overwhelmed when I saw just these millions and millions of people that were all being told the same thing. So I knew that there was an uprising of people going public with their stories all at the same time. And that gives you confidence, because it's not just you on your own amongst a load of people who are going to find what you're saying a shock. What it's really about is a connection and a collective coming together. And that's what creates the energy. It's not about me being online and spreading this message and teaching people. It's about my message resonating with someone else who's already in that activated state, and all these people coming together. And what happens is it creates this network of light. That's what's happened. It's an energetic connection. And us talking and teaching each other and saying things, that's just the physical 3D representation of this grid. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, gosh, I'm just so grateful that you are here for us. You are an assistant to star seeds and light workers and way showers, and I'll just group myself in with that bunch there. I feel it's funny because I remember when my best friend Helene Lipson used to do all these shows with me. She passed away last year, but she is the one who I got into doing radio shows with, and I remember she had a similar issue. She's like, well, when we do the shows, we have to make sure that everybody can understand us. And I said, why? Why not just speak the way we speak, and who resonates with us will stay, and those that don't understand, they will not listen to us. That was important to me, and yet I also had to get past that fear of what people think of me a little. That's in my own thing of just not being afraid of what my old friends might think of me, and because we are here to, I think a lot of us, like you said, the nine were showing you how many people, millions of people were getting this call to go public. And I think a lot of us did start around that time. And I started doing shows myself in 2011. And I felt a huge push to become, I don't know if you've heard of Barbara Marciniak. I'm sure you have.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So channeling the Pleiadians, bringers of the dawn, that was one of my first things. I listened to that, and she was saying the Pleiadians are telling us that we are the pillars of light. They're supposed to transduce the light, which is information, out to all. And, we're all doing that, and it's so exciting to connect with someone like you. And I'm just so grateful that you're here, and I'm so super excited. And We have so many questions, and I want to make sure we have time to get to our listeners, to callers. We have a lot of people in the queue.
Yeah.
So just to tell people, though, I want to say that you have hundreds of videos on YouTube. Do you know how many you have at this point?
Um, I think it's about 450, possibly. I don't
Wow.
keep
That's,
track. Roughly around there, I
yeah,
think.
that's funny because I was going to say 500. You have about 500
Yeah,
videos.
it could be. It could be
Mhm.
500. Yes, I lost track.
It's so many, and it's funny because I've listened to so many of yours, especially since I knew you were coming on my show. I've been listening to you every day, so it's such a pleasure to have you here with me live, and to know that my friends and I are here, and we're getting a lot from just the connection here with you. Um, I wanted to ask though, when you're doing an interview like we're doing right now, um, are your guides speaking with you, or is this we're just speaking with you right now, Magenta, or
No, I
yeah?
always bring them in whenever I'm doing an interview or a talk or a one-to-one session with someone, or whenever I'm talking to somebody and they open up their energy and the communication is going into more of a spiritual connection, if you like, then they're there because you see, the nine are they're not just light beings from the sixth dimension or angels. What they actually are is my perception in the third dimension. Obviously, we translate energy, and our brains are like decoders of higher energetic code. So, in the sixth dimension, we have this realm of sacred geometry, which is our true form, if you like, in the most linear presentation. Obviously, our true form is pure energy and pure light, and we are source. But within the sixth dimension, there's this sacred geometry, which is like a building block or a mathematical code. It's a building block for form, and that can be people and ideas and things and places. It's a building block blocks for form. It's a realm of pure thought shaped into this potential, and this six-dimensional sacred geometric realm is the true us. So we could also call that, if you like, our true self, our true form, which we could call the aura, which is so much more than just swirling colors of energy around us. We can call it the matrix, the organic matrix. And this is like a sort of a computer grid, if you like, a database of everything that's ever happened, everything that's happening now, and everything that ever will happen. It's like our personal Akashic record field. And that is a living thing. It is a living energetic. And it is us and the true us, but it is also outside of us. It's the part of us that is the subconscious, but going way beyond the subconscious into the superconscious. It's the part of us that sees the periphery of everything that we don't see on a conscious level. And I don't just mean things we've missed in the day. I mean things that we have not experienced in this reality and in this lifetime. So things from before we were born, things from other quantum realities, other choices we made in different alternate selves, and things from the future. So that database, that grid that is the sixth dimensional presentation of us, is a living thing. And that is decoded by us when we make contact with it. It's decoded by us in many different ways. And one of the ways we decode this living energetic field is as an extraterrestrial, an ascended master, an angel, a light being, a group of light beings. So that is who the nine are. So they're always with me because they are my body and they're my DNA. So it's a case of I'm calling the nine in, or I'm saying, please come and be with me, or I'm drawing that grid around me and becoming aware of it, or I'm opening my Merkaba field, or I'm going into my DNA and I'm creating a light structure within it, all the same thing. So the nine are always there, just like your guidance is always there with you, and it's just like a sort of a switch, I guess. If you see it as a radio station, it's a good metaphor, and one that's used a lot in the New Age community, and it's very, very good. So you've got a radio dial turned down to one radio station, just picking up a few radio stations, and then you are going to turn the dial up and pick up, you know, thousands of radio stations. It's just a change. And once you know how to do it, once you know how to make that shift within you, then it becomes second nature. It's just like putting on your shoes or your coat, just switching that energetic switch. It's so natural to you, because as you practice this, it just becomes, as I said, second nature, like learning to drive a car. It's so easy to you. You don't think about it. So yes, the 9 are just always there.
That's great. Perfect, because I was hoping, actually, that was one of the questions that I had from a listener about when you do your talks, are you doing it with the white-winged collective consciousness of 9? And
yeah, I can do a talk without them. I mean, the thing is, if I'm doing a talk and someone asks me a question and I already know the answer to this as Magenta, I don't necessarily need to connect with the 9 to be able to respond to that question. And if somebody asks me questions about sort of third dimensional things, I wouldn't necessarily call the 9 in. But when I'm talking in this scenario with a group like now, I will automatically bring them in, because already beforehand I know that I'm going to be talking to you and you're going to be asking questions, and I know that other people will ask questions, and some of the questions I, as Magenta, might not know the answer. So then I would go to the 9 and ask them. So I work with them. It's the 2 of us together, or the 10 of us, or however you want to see it.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm so excited to have them all here with us today. So thank you to the 9 for being here. And, you know, I'm sure that a lot of the people that are listening to the show have been tuning into your videos. Maybe they've even read your fantastic books, one of which I have, The Divine Architecture and the Starseed Template.
Oh, lovely.
Which is great. You know, what's funny, though, I find that I would like for you to do an audio version of this book, because I don't read that much. It's hard for me to actually look at a book and read. So I don't know why that is. I love reading, but I don't take the time to do it that much anymore. So whenever you come out with an audio version, I'm going to get that too.
Yes, I've had so many requests for an audio version of both books, and it's on my to-do list. It really is.
Well, you're doing so much stuff. I mean, I just want to say that one video. Now, this is my first question I'd like to get into today, about the 2 world split.
Yes.
So you did a great video. I think it was called the Silver Solstice series. That was the series that was basically transcribing, in a way, another video that you did, which is all around the solstice, which was,
yes, that's right.
And so, you know, that's what a lot of people have been asking. Actually, I've had several questions from different people, which I'm actually going to put all into the same question with myself. Although I have to tell you, my friend Scott asked a great question. My friend Jennifer and Belinda and Evelyn, these are all people that have given questions for the show. But I'm just going to put them all into one, because initially I was going to call this show The 2 World Split and Beyond. And then a few weeks later, I thought I'd just call it Beyond Real, because I didn't know what we would get into in this show. But so in this series, you're talking about the fact that now we are in the 3D and the 5D. And so I think a lot of people are questioning, how is it that we can be in the 5D and still feeling all this 3D stuff, all the struggles, all the, you know, being connected to our partners who are really upset and having difficult times, or all the people who are upset about Trump or the world, and all these things going on. So can you give us a little understanding of that, of where are we now? Where does the right-wing collective consciousness think that we are at this point?
Right. Well, if you look at the 3rd dimension and the 5th dimension, I mean, one metaphor is to look at 2 Earths next to each other, you know, 2 different worlds. But a really good way of Sorry, I'm getting quite a lot of feedback here. Do you know why that might be?
On your
Yeah, I'm hearing my
mic?
own voice talking back to me.
Oh, I hate when that happens. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, I'll try and carry on. It's
Try
like,
to, I can
yeah.
click you off and click you back on if maybe that would help.
Yes,
You want
give
me to try?
that a try.
Okay, let's try that. Hold on. Okay, I know how that feels. I don't like listening to my own voice. So let's try this. Here we go.
Okay.
Does this work? Try it again.
Hello. Yeah, that seems to be better. Okay, that's good. Sorry, it's quite off-putting when you can hear yourself.
I know exactly how you feel.
So, a good way of getting your head around this is to use time. So, if you see, the third dimension is the present. It's where we are now. And the fifth dimension is the future. This is only one model because obviously within the higher realms there is no linear time, but from the third dimension there is linear time. So it's difficult to think, well, I'm in the fifth dimension and I am experiencing all these wonderful things, but everything is still going on in 3D, and why is this still happening? So instead of looking at it as perhaps two realities side by side, see it as the third dimension being the present. This is where you exist now, and the fifth dimension is the future. And to be honest, it is way, way, way in the future. What the star seeds are doing right now and have done is the ability to access the future. So they are time jumping, and they're not necessarily jumping from the third dimension into the fifth and back again. They've merged the fifth dimension and the third dimension together. So the starseeds are living in the present and way, way, way in the future at the same time. Now, what's good for the starseeds to actually perceive is that they are existing in the fifth dimension. So they are living in the future, which is their true time, because that's where all the starseeds came from. But they have come back in time to the third dimension to assist the people who are sort of, stuck in the third dimension and aren't able to access the 0 point no time field and the fifth dimension. So when you experience all these things that are still going on, that are dragging people down and upsetting people, and all the drama and the political scene and this, that, and the other, that's the past to you if you're a starseed. But that is why you came here. You came here to assist people to go through this that you've already been through, because you're from the future. So the way you are doing this is to remember you're from the future, anchor the future back into your consciousness and your awareness, and live in both simultaneously. So that's difficult to do at first. So around 2012, we were all sort of hopping from the 3D to the 5D and having to sort of let our bodies and our third dimensional minds catch up with these new experiences. But now here in 2018, we are able to stand within that merge quite well. And that's a good way to get your head around it, to see this as the future and the present merged simultaneously. So that's a good way to get your head around it. And that's why we're still experiencing these 3D issues, because we are still experiencing the third dimension, even though we are now living in the fifth dimension as a Starseed Collective group. They need us. The people stuck in 3D need us. And so the way that we deal with it is finding ways to deal with all the third dimensional drama. And it isn't about rejection of it. It's not about thinking, oh, I feel really, really upset about, I don't know, something Trump said today. It's upset me so much. I'm so angry, and I shouldn't feel this way, and I mustn't feel anger. I mustn't feel sadness. I mustn't feel hurt. That's not the way to do this, because it's normal, because you are a third dimensional being. You've incarnated into a third dimensional body in linear time. It's okay to feel anger. It's okay to feel fear. It's okay to feel irritated, as long as you learn from that and you allow that energy to flow through you, and you don't stay there. If you stay in anger every day for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, then you are stuck within that energy, caught in that third dimensional energy. You are not in a state of flow. If you are staying in anger for weeks and weeks and weeks, but you are purging this and you're working with it and your intention is to discover why the anger is there and work with it and integrate it, then that's okay because you're in a higher place. And if anger comes in and you manage to transmute it out by the end of the day or within an hour, then that's fantastic work. But no one is saying that you shouldn't feel it at all. However, starseeds will get to a point where something that made them angry in the past won't make them angry anymore. And that's sort of saying, that famous saying, water off a duck's back. That's what it will be like. Literally, it won't go into the duck. It will flow down the feathers. That is very much where we are going. And many are there now.
Well, that's great to hear. You know, it's interesting because I just felt like a few years ago, around the time that we were going into, December 12th, 2012, or December 21st, 2012, there was such a quickening happening, and I felt like it was almost easier to ascend at that point. I felt like we were on the ascension fast track. Everybody was trying to catch the train. I don't know. And then it seems like we went into a hard period. Now, maybe it's just my own life. I lost my best friend and my mom passed and a lot of difficult times that I've had to go into. But sometimes I start to feel like, and I'm just speaking for myself, but I think my experience speaks for a lot of people, that I find it's easier when I can just be in my own world and not have to connect with regular people. And to stay in that high vibrational, loving place. And yet, I know we're supposed to have relationships with people and we're supposed to help people. And so, I got into a relationship and we had our share of issues. And I just felt like it was very hard for me not to let all the drama hurt me. And I hear what you said, Magenta, that it's not that we should feel bad about being angry or feeling sad or depressed. But, how are we, and now this is a question from Belinda, I'm just going to blend into here. So how can we assist others so that we can anchor the 5D into our everyday lives more quickly? People talk about chemtrails, we talk about the cabal, the dark agenda, all the stuff that's going on now. How can we acknowledge that and then help others who don't see the possibilities of the 5D in the way that we do?
Right. Well, this is all about integration of all of these things and all of these emotions that are brought up by these events. It's not about getting rid of them, and it's not about transcending them. It's about integrating them. When it comes to other people, you can only help them to the point where they are open and receptive to that assistance and that help. And so you need to work with their paradigm and their belief system. And this goes back to something you were saying earlier about having a group of people and talking to a group of people as opposed to an individual person. When you're speaking to one person, it's very easy to be able to look at that person and see where they are. So I've got this feedback going on again. Do you want to click me off and bring me back in?
Sure. Let me do that. Hold on. Here we go. All right. I'm going to wave my hands around and change the energy here. So let's hope. Okay, Magenta.
Hello.
How are we again?
Yeah. Yes, it seems okay. So you did your magic wand there. That's wonderful. It's okay. It's easy to look at somebody and think, right, this person can only raise their belief system to here. So therefore, I'm not going to want to hurt this person or trouble them anymore. So I will help them to the point that they are able to be helped, and I will change my words and change the way that I'm thinking and edit my conversation in order to help them. When you are with a group, obviously you cannot do this. You've got a group of individuals. So you have to look at the group energy and think, well, these people can hear and handle what I'm saying and it's going to uplift them. But this small minority here are sort of way above and they're already sort of, understand far more than what I'm talking about. And then you've got this minority here who are really stuck in this and they're unable to understand what I'm talking about. You have to go with where this sort of majority energy is. Now, I'm talking here using a metaphor of speaking to a group on an interview or doing a public talk, but this is the same thing globally. So when you say, how can you help other people, it depends on the platform that you are using. So one-on-one is very easy. You would literally go with where that person is, use their belief systems and their understanding to assist them in the areas that they are confused. It's much easier to do this one-on-one. But if you're somebody who's wanting to help people in a group capacity, such as through books, radio, public talking, then you're going to have to go with the group energy, look at where the majority are, and there are going to be some individuals that aren't going to potentially get what you're saying and may potentially be made to feel worse, really, by listening to what you're saying. And how you would help that group when it comes to understanding how to deal with events in the third dimension, it's really, as I go back to, assisting them with integration. That's the number one. Integration of themselves, their own traumas, their own fears and worries. So it isn't about making them feel as though they're making a mistake and doing something bad. It's about validating where they are, because no one on this planet is in the wrong place. I know that we can be, star seeds that are moving through an ascension period, an ascension process, and we're in that fifth dimensional energy, and we can look at these people who are not there and think, oh well, they're not ready and they're falling behind, but it's easy to judge that and put ourselves on the opposing polarity to them. We're expanded and you're not, but that isn't helpful, because the true reality is no one is in the wrong place. No one's doing anything wrong. Everyone is where they are based on their own internal process and their own internal paradigm. So it's about validating that person. And once you have validated that person, then you can assist them to grow in different areas. And it isn't easy to do on a group level. So it's about integration, not making people get rid of their dark emotions and change their behaviors. Neither are you expecting them to embrace emotions and paradigms and belief systems that they're not ready to. It's very simple to say, just quit the fear and feel love. Open your heart and let love run through your heart chakra. A lot of people don't understand what that means. They're in pain. They feel anxiety. They don't know what you're talking about. They don't know how to do it. So you have to sort of find all different ways. And this is what the 9 do. They come through with so many different metaphors and stories and presentations, all kind of leading to the same thing. So the ultimate here, when you're trying to help someone, is integration. Whatever that may mean to you, is assisting others to be able to integrate the individual subjective experience and the outer macrocosmic objective experience in whatever way that you can. That's the key, integration.
Definitely. I like that. I like that idea of integration, because then you really are going beyond the whole dualistic mindset where something's right or wrong, or this is bad, or I have to get rid of this, or and then this leads me to the question that our listener Scott brought up for me, and this is like, I know you talk about the matrix and the divine matrix, and I'm not sure if you've heard of the term inverted matrix, but as we would say, what we're living in now, the part of reality that we're living in that's just not really what our true nature is, that's what some people call the inverted matrix. So this is the question. What do you think of the inverted matrix? Would you agree that we're experiencing it, and at what point do we get out of it, or I'll say, would we transcend this inverted matrix?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. This goes back to the two world split. And to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly the same thing from the nine's perspective. It is just a different presentation of energy. I haven't heard the term inverted matrix, but I know what you mean. I would call that I don't really know what, the dark matrix, I suppose. There's an
Mm-hmm.
organic matrix, an organic structure. And what that is this six-dimensional realm that I was talking about of sacred geometry, which is the building blocks of form. It's pure thought in this mathematical code, and this moves down energetically through these dimensions. So we have this construct that is the presentation of our own reality, our own existence, our own minds, our own selves. It's us. It's source and us simultaneously. It's an organic structure that enables us to be able to come into incarnation and experience the third dimension. And that is normal and natural and loving. And that is the true divine matrix or sacred matrix or whatever word you want to give it. It is us. It is beautiful and pure. And that is the angelic field. And that is the ascended masters. And that is the extraterrestrials of light. The inverted matrix, now what this is, or the false matrix, the dark matrix, the trapping system, this is an infiltration. And there are many ways to explain this. So going from a fourth dimensional perspective, this is an infiltration from fourth dimensional entities that wish to control what is occurring here within the third dimension on our planet Earth, because it is a rich source of sustenance for them, and more than sustenance. There are metaphoric jewels here, if you like, and this is not meant to be literal. These fourth dimensional entities are not here to mine diamonds. It's about the energetic structure and the DNA and the original code. It's all here within humanity and within Earth. And this fourth dimensional entities wish to utilize it. And from their point of view, they're not being evil, they're not being bad, they're not nasty. They are a life form that we may not understand, but they are a life form that is not like us. They don't have compassion. It doesn't make them wrong or terrible. It simply is that their experience of reality is a fourth dimensional one, and the energetic DNA structure that they have lacks the code for compassion. They are more scientific, if you like. They're more like artificial intelligence, although they are organic. And so they're simply wanting to consume what they need to consume to survive. They're simply wanting their food. So they are doing what they feel they have to do. It's very hard to understand this when we're standing from the point of view of the victim to them. And that's why we can't understand it when we're the victim to them. We need to rise above that victim-savior mentality and look in an objective sense at this being that's very difficult for us to understand. They're nothing like us as humans, but when you take the overview and the objective view, you see that they are simply doing what they are supposed to do, or what they feel they are supposed to do from the mindset that they have. So what they did was, and they're very advanced and very clever, they create this false matrix or inverted matrix. That then creates a situation on this planet that creates a trapping system for the life forms on this planet, and it goes beyond humanity, so that their energetic structure can no longer grow and expand and unfold. Their energy leaks out. They stay within this sort of entrapped phase, this lower DNA structure, this reincarnational wheel and everything that goes with it, and their energetic frequency is given to these fourth dimensional entities. However, there's more to the story, and that is that there are other entities coming from other dimensions and other planetary systems that are very, very different. And some of them do have the code for compassion, and some of them have codes for such high frequency unconditional love that even we, us as star seeds that are embracing fifth dimensional reality, even we cannot understand them, because the love they experience is way beyond anything we could experience. But they love us so much, so they have a very different agenda for this planet. They want us to access this organic matrix. Then there is even more to the story, and this is so important to place within your awareness, because it will help you when you see evidence of that trapping system, and you see evidence that we are controlled as a species. It will help you to be able to expand beyond that and see the truth, and that is, in the true reality, there is one energetic soul. And yes, we're experiencing all these different planetary systems and realities and dimensions and different expressions of DNA, human being the main template, and that comes and presents in so many different ways. But in the true reality, there's this one entity, one source, and this source is able to polarize itself, separate itself. And so when you're looking at polarity, the polarization of this original source would polarize into these two polarities. Let's call these polarities positive and negative, because that's the nearest one can get. And so in order to incarnate into a third dimensional reality and become an individualized soul, one has to integrate and become individualized. So you become a soul in your own right, and then you go back up this frequency chain and stand next to that one soul, that one source, with as much knowledge and understanding as that source has, because the source and the integrated soul that you are the same being. You're simply living source's journey in this third dimensional sense. So when you are that, when you know that is you, you are this positive and negative. And from that perspective, you decided that you would incarnate into a third dimensional reality where you could experience choice and free will. And the only way that you could experience choice and free will would be to be presented with the positive and the negative, so that you could integrate the two. So what I'm saying is, going beyond the story, it was you, whoever the you is that's listening to this, it was you who decided the whole thing, because you are the only soul. So you decided to create the organic matrix so that you could incarnate. You decided to create the inverted matrix so that you could experience the negative polarity. So, but you can't just go there. If you just go there and think, well, I designed all this and everything beyond me is an illusion, then you lose your grip on reality. And your grip on reality is, yes, this is a controlled planet. Yes, there's an inverted matrix, and we need to do something about it, because Earth, Gaia, the spirit that is Gaia, has chosen now to move beyond this level of polarity. So we don't need this inverted matrix anymore to show us this negative polarity, so that we can make choice and free will and integrate. We are now raising in this evolutionary spike that we're in to a point where we can choose a different kind of polarity. And it's not necessarily a dense positive and negative. It's a much lighter polarity. And it's much closer to those light beings that have this very high level of unconditional love. And it is moving beyond these entities that are fourth dimensional and that are gaining sustenance from us. So as long as we are able to sit ourselves, our consciousness, within all these different perspectives of reality, we can understand what's really going on from the absolute core of the reason why all this is happening on the third dimension, and everything politically and everything spiritually. We understand why, but we can also bring ourselves right down into the third dimension, and we can do something about it. And we are. This inverted matrix that you are asking about is changing its structure and changing its form. It is no longer as intense as it was. It is not able to hold the trapping formation that it did, and these fourth dimensional entities are no longer gaining the level of sustenance from us that they were. And all of this has been very much occurring in the sort of core idea, the original manifestation around the 21st of December 2012 point. Then we go into this 4-year sort of loop of 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016, where we're integrating all those manifestations from 2012. And then in 2017, those manifestations were becoming actual, which is why the third dimension looks so chaotic right now. Now we're in 2018. There's a new energy for us as starseeds, and this is very much about understanding all of this and being able to experience the freedom of the true organic matrix while still working to continue to dismantle and change and dissolve this inverted matrix. So I know I went on a bit there, but I hope that's kind of made sense to your question, because that's really responded to the two-world split and the inverted matrix question, because it is the same thing. The two-world split is the inverted matrix and the organic matrix, which is 3D and 5D. But the matrix, the inverted matrix and the organic matrix, are more multidimensional structures, and we see the evidence of how they manifest here in 3D, which is why 3D contains beauty and love and compassion and light, and it also contains a lot of darkness and corruption, greed, and everything else. That's why both is here.
Well, a beautiful answer, and you ended up answering other parts of the same question that Scott had, so that's just perfect.
Oh, that's good.
You guys, I would think, I love talking to psychic people because they know exactly where to go. So, so that was just great. And so it sounds like what you're saying, though, is that we are basically integrating all of these parts, either individually or collectively. Then the duality, in a sense, are we transcending the duality? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like, is it sort of, Sorry.
We're transcending duality in the sense that we are changing the structure of duality to a trinity. So we are transcending a dualistic polarity into a trinity or a trine polarity, which is the higher connection. And that's the same thing as reconstructing the DNA template. So it's not transcendence in the sense of I don't want anything to do with duality anymore. I am fully whole. I'm rejecting duality. I want nothing to do with it. We're not transcending it in that way, because we need to have something to do with it in order to integrate it. But we're transcending it because we're moving into this trinity or trine, which is the connection with the higher aspect. So the dualistic aspects of us, A and B, are now forming C. And if you look at that as in a different way, that's the male and the female, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and their marriage, and then their child, which is the creation. And their child, from a higher level, is the ascension of Gaia. That is the child.
That's beautiful. I love that imagery. Would you say that, you talk a lot about geometry and symbols, so would that be, is there a geometric shape to that as well? Would it be like a pyramid or a triangle? Or
absolutely. Ultimately,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, a triangle, a pyramid, a trine, ultimately, it's the Merkaba, and the Merkaba is interlocking, merging trinities and triangles. If you go and just research sacred geometry, I mean, it's a fantastic tool for activation and awakening, because you don't have to understand it. You don't have to look at a geometric structure like, say, let's just take the Kabbalah or Metatron's cube. You don't need to look at it and think, oh yeah, I understand what this means. I know what this sphere is, and that relates to this part of me. No, you just look and you open your heart and you just connect, and then you'll think, I know this structure, and it's me. It's me. It's special to me, and it's special to my DNA. And then you also know this is a structure that's a key to unlock the secrets to everything. And then you meditate on it, and then you allow the processing of what that structure means to occur. And that might take a few hours, it might take you several years, and it will come up in your everyday reality, and it will come up in synchronicity, and it will come up in your dreams. So it's not just a trinity as in a triangle or a pyramid, but yes, it is that. Ultimately, it's moving into this Merkaba. So.
Well, I like that. And then the Merkaba, I guess, if you look at it, it would almost be like two triangles, one upside down and one, so they're overlaid on top of each other. To me, I guess, actually, I mean, I've been listening to you talk about the geometry, and there's a part of me that goes, oh, wait a second, but I don't access that. So I almost felt like I'm coming at it from a 3D perspective, like trying to see the shape of how this would come about. But from hearing what you're saying,
yeah, okay. That's okay. There's no right way to connect with sacred geometry. There's no wrong way to do it. I mean, I'm a complete beginner. I honestly am. When the nines show me the knowledge that there is to know on a consciousness level, and the knowledge that we can access here as human beings, I'm right at the start line. But that's my journey, and my perception and how we all do it is going to be similar. So we can share with one another, but it will be also unique. So if you come at geometry from a 3D perspective and try and understand it from a 3D perspective, that's okay, because the 3D perspective is most necessary. And this is a massive message from the nine, that many starseeds, not necessarily ones listening here right now, but many starseeds in the wider community will reject the 3D as if it's, oh, no, I don't want 3D. That's really, oh no, I'm 5D. Send the 3D away. It's horrible. That's really not the energy. The reason why you're here in 3D is so you can anchor all these higher dimensions. So the 3D is wonderful. Let yourself experience the 3D. And I also agree that the 3D right now is absolutely traumatic and horrific for some people, and for a lot of people. I understand that too. So there's not just one perspective here, but as a starseed, you will be able to access the beauty of 3D, and it's huge and wonderful, which is why these fourth dimensional entities wanted to create the inverted matrix in the first place, because there's so much richness here energetically. And it's not just here on Earth and throughout humanity, it's in you. It's in every single human being. So you make the choice. Do you give your energetic frequency to a hungry little 4D entity that needs it? Or do you think, well, hold on a minute, I want this energy for me? It's no different to when people keep asking you to do them favors, and you'll help your daughter and your friend and your mum and your stepbrother or whatever, and then by sort of 10 o'clock at night you are exhausted, and then somebody else wants more of you. That's exactly the same thing as you giving your energy to these 4D entities. It's the same thing. You come to the point where you have to create boundaries. So as you create boundaries with the people around you on 3D, you're simultaneously creating boundaries with these entities in 4D. You're saying, no, I can't help you. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm so tired. I've been on the go all day. But I tell you what, I'll help you on Thursday at 2 o'clock. That's your boundary. And you're saying the same to those 4D entities. You know what? You've eaten too much of us. You've consumed too much energy. We need it for our ascension now. We need it to go back to the organic matrix, because that's our path. So bless you all, but sending you love, but this is what we're going to do. Humanity is taking a stand. Humanity is becoming sovereign. The starseeds are in the front line of this movement, and this is what we are going to do. It's the same thing.
I love that. That's perfect. You're bringing up all these exciting topics, and I want to go down so many roads with you, and yet I have to be conscious of the 3D time that we're in right now. So, so I'm not going to go down some of the roads that I would like to go down with you. Like, I would love to ask, what exactly are those entities in the 4D? because I think that's too big of a question. But
wow, that's a massive question. I mean, I can go
yeah.
there for you, but it is a big question.
I
Yeah.
think it is. I think it might lead us off topic because,
Well,
you know,
I tell you
go
what
ahead.
I could say.
Okay.
One thing that's important to know is they are us. Okay, so without obviously that's not the only answer, because on another level they're
Hmm.
not us at all. They are completely the opposite from us. So if you, in order to answer that question very, very quickly, and then you can go away and think about what that means and how that might manifest. But they are us, for all things are, and they are offering a polarity so that we can experience free will. That's another way of looking at it. But obviously, that question alone, what are the
Hmm.
4D entities? I mean, I could talk about that for the whole show, but I will
I
come back
know.
and do another one if you like. I mean,
Oh, goody.
I'll come back
Yes.
and do another show and do more talking.
Yay. Oh, that's so good. I'm so excited. That would be awesome. So let's do that another time. You will come back and we can go into some of these deeper
Yeah.
issues, which are fascinating. And because I want to give time for questions, but I have one more question I'm going to take from my friends before we start taking callers. And
Okay.
so let me just look. This is from my darling friend Evelyn. And she gave me, I just have to tell you, Magenta, she gave me 9 questions.
No,
So,
dear.
and she says, when it comes to 9, for the
Yeah, that's
9,
nice.
yeah, it's so funny. But then she said, but number 7 is the main one that I want. So I'm going to go
Okay.
straight to 7 and read it to you. Is Trump, we know Donald Trump, the president of the United States, right? Is Trump working for a timeline other than the highest, best available? Or shall I say, does he have an alternate agenda, not truly for the good of all of humanity, only some? If he's not working for the highest, best for all, what about all the light workers who've put their faith in him?
Okay, that's a fantastic question, and I
Mm-hmm.
do love Trump questions, and they are so significant. So I'm going to break this down. Is Trump working for the highest, best timeline, or is he working for an alternate timeline with his own agenda? Just writing this down. And if he's not working for the highest, best, what about the starseeds putting their faith in him? Okay, let's have a look at this. Okay, so is Trump working for the highest, best timeline? Right, so at the moment, looking at the timelines for this planet and where we are going, the answer to this is yes. However, he is not aware of this. He is not aware of the structure of reality and the probabilities and timelines. His mindset is somewhere else. It is more within a third dimensional construct. So there isn't an awareness of what he's doing at that level. Obviously, I can't go too deeply into Trump's personal
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, because that would be overstepping certain ethics. Having said that, there is a certain amount of energy that can be read from Trump, more so than the average person. So when you put yourself in a certain place in 3D, you give more of a psychic view to yourself, if you like, than other people do. So if you're a celebrity, if you know what I mean, you are putting yourself out there in 3D, so you're putting yourself out there in matching dimensions. So I will work with these ethics and read what I can. So does he have his own agenda? Yes, he does. Absolutely, and very much so. Now, but that own agenda, luckily, or is it orchestrated, or both, that own agenda is perfect for the highest, best timeline. That's why he doesn't know about the timeline, because if he knew about the timeline, it would take his focus away from his own agenda. He's very subjective, but he needs to be, because of the situation he is in. If he moves out of his own agenda, then there could be problems, because he could be influenced. And at the moment, he is not truly influenceable, if that's even a word, if you know what I mean. His
Mm-hmm.
own agenda, being number one, is imperative for him to do the job. So is his own agenda potentially creating another timeline that's not for our best interests? I would say yes, but let me go further into that. The only way that Trump is potentially creating a timeline that's not in our best interests is if he is influenced by individuals from the service to self dark structure that are presenting to him as light, and he's putting his faith in them. Now, that is happening because, you see, Trump acts and works like a businessman. So he's running America as if it's his business and his project, which is why he needs to be in his own agenda. His own agenda is, I'm a businessman and this is what I do, which is why he comes across as quite egotistical sometimes. He says things like, I'm very clever and I'm a stable genius. That's wonderful. We need you to be this. We need you to be a little bit narcissistic, if you like. A mild narcissism is a good quality for him to have, not as a person necessarily, but absolutely for a president in Earth in 2008 in a third dimensional planet that is hijacked within a inverted matrix. If we had no inverted matrix here, Trump would not be an ideal president. He would not have the character, and he wouldn't ever get to presidency. But because we do have an inverted matrix, Trump is absolutely 100% the right person. The only way he could take us down a timeline that's not best for humanity is if he listens to influences from this dark structure that is known as the cabal, the globalists, the deep state, whatever you want to call them. If they sort of disguise themselves as light and honest and trustworthy, and Trump falls for that and trusts them, then he may create a policy of some kind that would move away from the ascension agenda into the New World Order agenda. But this isn't happening. It could do. That's why I'm answering the question, because I'm going into all the different areas that could occur. So I'm looking at possibility. But when it comes to probability, there are these other individuals around him that are fully working for the highest timeline. Now, they have a different agenda because they're not necessarily starseeds. They are, but in their own consciousness, they're not necessarily starseeds or light workers. They probably think that's new age mumbo jumbo, and they wouldn't even want to entertain that kind of terminology. But they're still starseeds. They're still light workers. Some of them may have been darker individuals, dark workers, if you like, in the past, and have changed and moved away from that structure, and they're now moving into the light. And these individuals are around Trump. So whatever advice he's getting coming in from the service to self structure, it's being counteracted by genuine individuals that are working for the ascension timeline, who may or may not be aware of that as well, because everything's occurring within the 3D. Then we're looking at other dimensions around Trump. So we're looking at synchronicity, and it is unbelievably powerful. The reason why it's unbelievably powerful around Trump is because there's this huge group of starseeds who are so aware of the situation, just like I'm explaining it to you now. If they were to hear me speak, they would say, yes, Magenta, because they can see it too. And all of those people are consciously, and some unconsciously, but mostly consciously, sending energy and support and trust to Trump and the mission he's on, which is creating powerful synchronicity. So what's actually happening is, and it's actually quite funny when you look at it, you have these service to self individuals disguising themselves as honest people who want to support Trump, and some kind of synchronistic event will occur and they fall flat on their face and Trump sees right through them. So that's kind of what's happening. So the answer to the question is yes, he is working for the highest, best timeline. And this other question, what would happen to the starseeds putting their faith in him, that is not in the trajectory of the most probable timeline right now. What the star seeds, the ones putting their faith in Trump, are understanding that it's not Trump they're putting their faith in, it's the ascension timeline. That's where they're putting their faith. And Trump is just one tiny piece of the jigsaw. It seems massive, and it is massive in the third dimension because he's the president of the United States, which is the central core to the ascension process. It is the new Atlantis. It's where the energy is so much quicker and faster. Yet when you look with the overview, it's a tiny, tiny piece. And all the star seeds are just as significant as Trump is, even if you've never heard of them. Presidency means nothing within that higher energy. Everyone's role is equal. So those star seeds are not putting their faith in Trump. They're putting their faith in the ascension timeline. And a great majority are aware of this. Those that are not are still aware some level, and they're in the process of working all this out. But I would add, when it comes to this, there's a lot of emotion, deep, deep emotion from everybody, because the whole Trump thing is drawing up the shadow from everywhere. So what I would say to you is, take on board what I'm saying, but you don't have to take it as truth. Only listen to what your heart tells you. And if your heart's telling you something different, then explore that as well. It's important that you don't listen to someone else and take what they are saying. All I'm showing you here is the energetic field that I'm able to see and work with through the training with the 9. But your training is more important to you than mine is. So that would be my answer.
Well, that's a brilliant answer. Or should I say answer? I love your accent, I have to say. That I'm in love with your accent. I love the way you speak.
Thank you. I love the American accent.
Oh, good. It's a nice mutual admiration that we can have together.
Yes.
That just makes me feel really good about Trump. I'm actually one of those people who's very neutral. I prefer not to talk too much about politics. But ever since Trump has come into presidency, it has surfaced on my show quite a few times. And I do feel that he is certainly playing a role for us. And I really like the way that you encapsulated it. And I think that's just perfect. And
it's good to be neutral. Yeah. It's good to be neutral. There's no there's nothing wrong or bad about being neutral. That is a good place, and I too wanted to be there when I first experienced the election and everything. My intention was to be completely neutral, and of course that isn't what was coming through from the 9 and these nudges and showing me this stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to talk about this. And I even had some of my spiritual friends saying, I think you're going a bit, and that's not really where your path. And I said, it's not my path, but it's definitely a massive part of it, because the service to self structure in the inverted matrix is, you can't understand the organic matrix and the ascension path and the ascension timeline without understanding the service to self structure, the dark agenda, and the inverted matrix. And Trump is on the forefront of all of this. Because all these presidents in America so far, and most of the other politicians throughout the world, have been part of the service to self structure, or they have been influenced heavily by them. So for the first time in so long, we have a president that is stuck in his own agenda, which makes him neutral, and he's not part of the cabal or the deep state. And that's so important to know, because so many people think he is, and he absolutely isn't. I can assure you I'm not going to assure you, that's not right of me to do that, but what I can say is what I see from him is absolute independence from that. And it just so happens that his agenda and his narcissistic belief that America is somehow part of him, which people don't like, that agenda is in absolute alignment with the ascension path. That's why Trump being the president is just so fantastic.
That's great. And I'm sure that a lot of people that are listening to this show, a lot of people will be very happy to hear that. there might still be other people who are still upset about Trump. And, I definitely don't try to convince anybody that is so upset that he is the good guy. I just let them be, and so we can talk about this, and I feel better knowing that, and I hope that everybody listening has a sense of relief, because people have been very upset about Trump. We have to look at the lens or the filter how we're getting our information, and I know you talk about this a lot in your YouTube videos about where we're getting our news from. And I think it's important for us not to be like an ostrich with our head in the sand, but at the same time, I don't want to feel overwhelmed with other people's fear. And I think that's what can sometimes happen for me. And that's why I said I feel it's important to be neutral, because,
Yes.
Yeah, I mean.
And it's okay to be upset about Trump. It's okay. It's not bad. If you are someone who's not aware of the control structure in the inverted matrix, it's quite normal that you would come to the conclusion that Trump is not the right person to be the president of the United States, and you would not be wrong. But you are looking at reality as not having an inverted matrix and fourth dimensional entities wanting to feed off us. It's like, if you can't see that, if you believe that this is a trustworthy world with a government that's fair and independent, then you are going to come to that conclusion, and you are going to be upset about Trump. And even those who are aware of the inverted matrix and the control structure still don't necessarily like Trump. And there is a perspective there too. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone who is utterly of the light as the president, who is aware of the light, a real starseed? Yes, it would. But how could we possibly do that now while there is an inverted matrix in place still? Yes, it's dissolving and changing, and we are doing massively well, but we still have a lot of work to do. There will come a time in the future within this ascension pathway when A, we have starseeds in government, and B, we don't have a government at all. But that isn't now. So it's okay for people to be upset about Trump, and all of those people that are upset about Trump aren't wrong. They are simply sitting within their own perspective. And as I said, one needs to validate their perspective. It isn't wrong, it's right, because their perspective's right for them. So all I'm showing here is an objective perspective, but that doesn't mean that the subjective perspective is wrong. Whether you love Trump or you hate Trump, or you're hurt by him and upset by him, or you're so happy, all of that is subjective. And when you stay in subjectivity, it can prevent you from moving into objectivity, which is why I say to you, neutral is good, because neutrality leads to objectivity. So neutrality is a key to get through to objectivity. It's a pathway, it's a doorway.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Well, I mean, that is here we are it is 12:22. So, and your time, I guess it's 5:22. Yes. And so we don't have that much time, and I'd like to open the floor up to some of our callers, if you are ready. Okay, perfect.
Lovely,
so,
yes.
Excellent. So I'm actually going to choose from the top of the line here. We're going to pick Julia from Florida. Hello, Julia. You're with Magenta.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call.
Hi, Julia.
Hi. Well, this is kind of more of a 3D thing. I'm looking to relocate this year. I'm presently living in Central Florida. And my intent is to move someplace where there's like an energetic match. I would like to create more happiness and love and joy in my life. I have some areas in mind. I don't know if that helps. I'm considering northern Florida in the Panhandle area, and I'm also considering North Carolina or South Carolina. And I didn't know if there was any guidance,
Where are you now? It's Central where?
Florida.
You're in Central Florida. Okay,
yeah.
So yes, I do feel that where you are now is not an energetic match to you. I'm seeing that there are a couple of ties still tying you to Central Florida. So you would need to work on tying up these loose ends, if you like. There are a couple of things still tying you to where you are. So you'd be working on releasing those so that you would be free to move without having any emotional tie back to Central Florida. I do see you moving. I think it is very, very set within the timelines that you will move. Well, nothing's ever set until it happens, but there's a high probability of you moving. I mean, you've mentioned Northern Florida or Carolina. I'm leaning more towards Carolina, but I'm not sure if it's even there either. I'm not really getting any kind of fix on where you're going, but what I do see is that there is an energetic match for you where you are going, and you will have what you want. You continue to visualize this, you continue to know in your heart that this is going to happen for you. But I do see these two links holding you to where you are now that you would need to work on releasing, if you know what they might be.
Well, I've got family here. My mother's here, and I have a niece here that I've been close to, and that's the only thing that I can think of would be those two family members.
Okay, so it'd be working with them to let them know how you feel about moving and staying in touch and you know, making sure that the move away from them is nice and harmonious. But I'm really not seeing a place. I do feel more drawn to Carolina energetically than Northern Florida. But there seems to be somewhere else as well that might be a possibility. But I am seeing an energetic match. And what I see at the end point of this is a lot of release within you. It's almost like you've got this tightness and this weight on your shoulders about where you are. And when you get to where you're going, it's like you breathe out, and this weight comes off your shoulders, and it's so relaxing. And so what I see energetically is a lot more nature, crystals and beaches and yoga retreats and all this lovely sort of energy around you. But what I would say to you is that this weight upon your shoulders, this sort of intensity that's tying you to where you are, the way to manifest this move and the way to manifest this place that you're going to live in that is an energetic match is to be living in that emotional state of relief, of letting go of this weight before you get there. And I feel it's tied up with these two links. So if you feel that's your mother and your niece or family, I feel it might be related to something like purging a family issue and or dealing with it in some way, or some kind of working with family to get this release occurring. So I'm feeling you breathe out and think, oh, thank goodness. Oh, that's lovely. This do you know what I mean? This relief.
Yes. That's exactly
Once you
what
feel once you feel that relief before you go, the relief you feel is the key to manifesting where you're going. And then it will happen.
Wonderful.
That
yes.
sounds so nice.
That's exactly
Okay,
important.
thank you for
thank
calling
you so
in.
much.
Thank you,
you,
Julia.
Julia.
Lots of love.
Much
Thank
love
you,
to you,
love.
Julia. Thank you. Well, what a sweetheart you are, Magenta. That was a lovely reading.
Bless.
You know, it's funny because I do a lot of shows where my friend Matthew Bueno comes on and he does readings, and my friend Helene Lipson was a psychic, and so I have a lot of shows where we do readings. So I think a lot of times people call in and they still want readings. So thank you for. I think that was.
Yeah,
I felt relief.
that's okay.
I felt relief. Yeah, I did feel relief in listening to that as well. But now we're going to go on to.
It's the same thing as questions. With questions, you're reading an energetic structure in front of you, and with a reading, you're reading a person and their life. It's the same thing.
That's true.
To me.
And yeah, and I agree. And actually, you know, her topic of feeling like we need to move. A lot of us are going through that and have been going through that and have been trying to follow our intuition with when is the time to make a shift. And so that was great. Now I'm going to take another caller. Her name is Jennifer. She actually has a radio show on my channel, Jennifer of the Cosmic Jungle. So we're going to take her next. So here we go. Okay. So Jennifer of the Cosmic Jungle, you're on with Magenta Pixie.
Hello, Claudia, and hello, Magenta Pixie.
Hello, Jennifer.
I wanted to. I mean, I have probably 1,500,000 questions, but I just wanted to say first that one of the things that I find with you, I've been listening to you for probably at least 4 years now. It's been a while, and I was so happy to find you because what I find happens with you is that when I'm always getting downloads and all these whirlwinds of information, and it's constant. And so when I have these things that I'm questioning inside my head and I'm saying, I wonder about this and I wonder about that, geez, I'm feeling this and that. And then I go and I listen to you and you like always hit the topic that is in my consciousness at the time. And sometimes it like literally blows me away, sometimes brings tears to my eyes. And I'm like, how does she know what I'm thinking? How does she possibly know that that's exactly, I needed a reaffirmation maybe or something like that. And you just always are right on topic with me. So I just wanted to let you know I really appreciate that. And through the years, I've thought so many times about writing to you and telling you things because I'm constantly getting my mind blown by your information. So I wanted to tell you thank you so much for that, and it's very exciting to speak with you.
Wow, that's lovely to hear. I do have a lot of emails, people telling me the same thing, actually. And what it is this is your meaningful subjective experience working. This is your synchronicity. And when you place your energy into something, so it can be a book, a person, an event, a television program even, you will find that your focus goes there. Therefore, that will become part of your synchronicity. I used to do it with Star Trek. It was the old series. When I rewatched the old series back in 2006, I think, I decided to rewatch the old series. And before Star Trek came on, I would sit there and think, right, this is what I want to know. And I would formulate my question or my topic in my mind, and I would know that this episode of Star Trek had the answer. And I tell you without fail every single time, the answer would be in the program. So you're doing the same thing, but connected to my work, my videos, my books, and because you and I have a matching energetic. We are very similar energetically, so that's why. So lovely for you to share that.
Oh. Yes, I feel like, she's my sister from the other side of the world.
Absolutely. Soul sisters, absolutely. There's such a fantastic, loving family amongst the starseeds, and it's really beautiful when you connect with someone that you know is part of that. And there's so many of us. There's millions of us. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm one of those people that you're speaking of with the Trump situation, so I was really happy to hear you talk about him today. I knew Trump was going to win the election, and I only knew it because I knew Hillary wasn't going to. It wasn't because I knew a whole lot about Trump at the time, but I knew a whole lot about Hillary, and I said, well, the timeline that I feel that I'm on, I don't think that, she can win, because if she does, then something's gone terribly wrong. And so when he won, I wasn't surprised, and I was excited. He's definitely, I've loved him because he is very courageous. We needed a very courageous, strong, egotistical type of a person to be able to stand in their shoes and take this on. And I knew that. And so I'm happy. And I always tell everybody to stop worrying so much about it, because if you put whatever your energy you put into Trump is the energy you're going to get back out of him. So I really appreciate that and do see this on another level. So I also wanted to bring up maybe a little bit of a question on fractals, which went with something that you say, because when I have questions, I always focus on the fractal of everything so that I can understand it from a different perspective. And one thing I came across recently was that, a lot of people, now no longer want to eat animals. They don't want to be involved in the slaughtering of animals on the planet and want to step back from that. Myself, as one of them for the last few years, really stepping back from all of that and seeing it from a different perspective. And then Marina Jacobi said something the other day that really struck me, that what I was so sure that she was very correct, was that, you know, we've got these different levels of people, you know, different levels of consciousness. And here you've got people that, you know, that will go, you know, to the store and eat these meats and eat all of this and unconsciously not even think about, like, where they came from or what's going on. And then they're also the ones that complain about, well, you know, they're trying to kill us, they're spraying us, and so they're kind of like mixed. They're saying these people are trying to kill us, yet they're killing another level of consciousness themselves. And so they're not able to see the fractal situation of their behavior. So, you know, you're doing it, yet you're complaining about it being done to you. And I thought that was really interesting. Would you like to say something about that, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. What this is your outer reality matching your inner reality. It's one and the same. So absolutely, if you're unconsciously eating meat and eating animals that have been through pain and have been slaughtered in pain and lived in fear, and then you are feeling similar and you're likening that to what's going on in the reality, what's going on with the control structure, et cetera, it's all one. Everything you take in, everything matches. Everything is a match. And the fractal is the pattern of reality. The fractal is how reality is set up. That is really, when you're seeing fractals, you are seeing that grid. It's not exactly formed in sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is more the presentation of the intelligence and the form and the thought that becomes form. But the fractal is kind of like the pattern. In a way, you could say that the geometry and the fractal are two sides of the same coin. The fractals are you know, the way things evolve and what they can move into, and the probability field and all the different possibilities that can occur. So I agree with what you said, this person said to you. I absolutely agree completely with what she's saying. And it's true that many, many people are getting to the point where they can't eat other animals or animal products because they're feeling it is a product of another living creature. They're getting lighter and lighter in energy, and obviously consuming other animals does sort of link you to the third dimension. But having said that, there are some starseeds who are consciously eating an animal, and you know what? It is okay to do that. It's not about not eating animal products. It's about how you do this. How conscious are you? If you are trying to find animal products from animals that have been raised ethically as possible and have been slaughtered as ethically as possible, it's difficult. But if you can do this and then you thank the animal, that's not an excuse to be able to eat meat and sit there and say thank you to the animal, now I can eat it because I've transmuted it. Because I know people who do that. I'm talking about genuine connection with that animal, genuine gratitude. So there are people who are able to do this. Having said that, the majority of starseeds in an awakening state, once they move into that higher frequency of light, they are being led to reduce animal products, because that's the energetic match to the whole inner subjectivity. And you would see another animal as your friend. You know, somebody said to me, why don't you eat animal products? And I said, well, they're my friends. I don't want to eat my friends. I love them. It's no different to me. You know, eating people will eat beef, cows, or pork, pigs, but they wouldn't think of eating a dog because they've got a pet dog. But that's because their subjective reality is, well, I love my dog. I couldn't possibly eat my dog, but a cow and a pig are farm animals. So they're raised to eat because of the way that they've been raised, the brainwashing that occurs within the system. It's the same with dairy products. It's like it's okay to drink the milk from a cow, but you don't drink the milk from a chimpanzee or a zebra. Well, why not? It's no different. So once people's subjective reality changes and they move into this higher paradigm, then they start to see cows and pigs and chickens just like dogs and cats. They're all your friends. So things start to change. Having said that, though, there are cases where there may be individuals who have a very plant-based vegan philosophy, who, for whatever reason, need to still eat animal products for a while they are transitioning into some kind of physical change. Our physical bodies are catching up with our light bodies, if you like. So it's not wrong. There's no judgment wherever anyone is, but it's about being conscious. That's the issue. Are you unconsciously just eating food and shoveling it in your mouth without thinking where it comes from or how it relates to your belief system and your actual experience? That's unconscious eating. It's all about being conscious and allowing that inner reality to match the outer reality and seeing the fractals, as you say. That's the important thing.
Oh, thank you so much for touching on that. And two things I'd like to leave you with, if you might comment on them, because I know other people would like to get some questions in. I wanted to know if the fourth and fifth dimensional Merkaba is different than the third dimensional Merkaba, and I also wanted to know if you see quantum medicine and fourth dimensional healing centers coming to being now and pretty soon.
The answer is yes to both of those questions. The fifth dimension, fourth dimensional Merkaba, and third are different. They're different structures. They shift and change in accordance to the energetic. They open up more, so they become more quantum. And the presentation of that Merkaba will reflect that quantum change. So you're looking at, say, the flower of life, if you like. That's still a manifestation of the Merkaba. That they are all intertwined together. And so as you go up the dimensions or forward into the dimensions, these Merkaba shapes change. Quantum medicine and 4D healing, absolutely. I mean, there is a movement to restrict them. There is a movement to stop them because they know, this service to self-control structure knows that brings freedom to humanity, and they want us entrapped within the medical system, which is lining their pockets and keeping us in a state of non-evolution when it comes to our DNA. But that structure, that service to self structure, no matter how much it tries, it cannot compete with organic synchronicity. The quantum medicine and the 4D healing is the medicine that is in alignment with the organic matrix, not the inverted matrix. Therefore, it will thrive and shall become more and more so from now on, ever increasing with more and more awareness. And the more awareness there is, the more call there is for that kind of healing, the more it will come out. So yes to both questions.
Oh, yay. Thank you so much, Magenta. I love you so much, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing for all of us.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nice to connect with you.
Same here. Thank you, CJ.
Hello, Claudia. Have we lost you?
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I was muted and I was just talking away.
I thought you'd manifested off into another dimension for a minute.
Yes, of course.
She descended. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, I'll tell you, listening to you and being part of this high vibrational time, it does make me feel like I'm floating off into another dimension. So thank you for that. But sorry, sometimes I mute myself and sometimes I don't. And then sometimes when I'm not muted, I make too much noise. So I try to go back and forth. But I am so conscious of the time. But I think we have time for one more call. If it's we'll have to say to people, I'm going to take one more person. But I would like for it to be a kind of a short one because we don't have that much more time left in the show.
Okay.
I'd love to have you come back again because this has been a fascinating time. Awesome.
I will.
Okay, so get ready. I'm going to take one more. I'm going to take the 613 number. Here we go. Hold on.
Oh,
okay, hi,
613.
Yes, hi.
Hi,
thank
you.
you.
Taking my call.
You're so welcome. What's your name?
My name is Donna.
Hi, Donna. What's your question for Magenta?
I've been seeing a man named Chris for the past few months. just wondering if you see that continuing. So.
Magenta, do you want to?
Do I see that continuing? Well, there is a potential for that. There's a lot of learning and interaction going on here. My advice to you would be, Donna, you are, I presume you have heard of the crystal individuals, the crystal children. You are a crystal individual. You have a very sensitive crystal energy, and it's very important for the man you are with to, you don't have to tell him you're a crystal person, a crystal individual, but it's important for the man that you are with to understand your sensitivity and embrace it and let it flourish and not make you feel as though it's something you need to, transcend or hide. And I think Chris is good for you in many ways, but I feel that there might be a slight mismatch with your sensitivity and some of his ways of thinking. And so the answer to your question, will it continue? The answer is yes, if you can come together between the two of you with your deep sensitivity, and if he can support this and watch you flourish as a crystal individual, which also means you are a healer, a natural healer in whatever way that will work for you. If you can come together with this and he can support your crystal energy, then there is a future and that will carry on. But that's the main issue that needs to be worked upon, I feel. Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you have a timing as to when we might, it might become more consistent?
Okay, so we're February. This year, and August is jumping out at me for some kind of resolution in some way. But definitely follow your heart and don't compromise your inner knowing and your calling and your starseed crystal energy for anything. Because I think you are a very giving person, and sometimes you will put your loved ones before yourself. And so it's time for you to really step into your power, and you can be as loving and as giving as you want. But at the same time, remember that Donna is your absolute best friend above anybody. So you need to nurture her. And I know you are doing this, but just put your heart and your knowing first. And the probability of you two coming together and sorting things out about this around August time is fairly high, as long as you stay in your trust and you don't compromise your knowing for a relationship. Let the relationship merge with you rather than you try to fit yourself into it, if you know what I mean.
Do you see us slowly building something from now until then?
Donna?
I do feel so, yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm cutting in. Donna, I'm going to cut in and say that we don't have that much time left in the show. So I think we have to cut the rest of those questions short. But Magenta is doing a lovely job of giving you a reading.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna. Please tune in and follow the show and you come back another time, okay? Good luck with your relationship. Okay, much love to you. I'm sorry, I'm getting nervous because I know we don't have that much time, and
no,
this
okay.
is and you're being so kind, and like I said, it's funny because I really have done so many shows with readings that I still get a lot of people looking for me, and I love the way you answer the questions for people, even when it's an individual question. I think you have a lovely way of putting it out there and letting the relationship come to you. That's beautiful.
Yes,
and now I'm going to,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the individual question to that person is massive, and it's the most important thing in their life. So it might seem like not such a big thing because it's individual and subjective, and it's not something that can necessarily be shared with the audience. But to that particular person, it's the most important thing to them.
Mhm. Totally. Yeah. And I get it. I mean, relationships to me are so important.
Yes.
And since we are in the last part of the show, I'm going to ask you a question for myself. And, this is about, for my life, and I don't know if you can tune into me and where I'm at, but, so I'm a light worker. I guess I can call myself a star seed. I feel like this is my purpose. This is all that I really want to do, is help people and be service to others and try to be happy and loving and in alignment. And sometimes, especially lately, I've just been bowled over in the last few years by circumstances, by my best friend dying and, having cancer and dying, and then by my situation in my life with my family, and my partner now. My partner and I have I've moved away for reasons for our family, and we're still together, but it's been a very hard time, and I'm having a hard time staying with the vision of the highest timeline. So is there anything that you can see for me of what I should be doing, how to stay in that higher vibrating state?
Yeah, the vision of what timeline did you say?
Well, I want to be in the 5D. I want to be in like my happiest place.
Yes.
Running my healing center with my partner and helping people. But right now we're not in that place. So I guess that's what I'm saying is even when things are going hard in the moment, how do we keep that vision of the highest?
The highest timeline, right? That's what you said. I missed that word. It's absolutely completely normal for a starseed to not be able to constantly see the vision of that fifth dimensional timeline. What's actually happening right now is all the starseeds are being prepared. This has been going on for quite some years. They're being prepared in the best way that they can be to give them the highest amount of tools needed for this period that we're now in and that we're literally going through, sort of literally right now, this revealing of dark shadow events and all the reactions that the people across the world will have. The starseeds are, that's why they're light workers. They're there to assist everyone. And so there are lots of challenges coming to these starseeds, and have been, to challenge any area within that individual that needs to be worked with, to be balanced. I mean, we are a never-ending, evolving being as a human being. So you've had all these issues occur with you, but you are standing within a fifth dimensional energy. You are there. You don't have to be completely focused on that 5D energy all the time and constantly holding on to that timeline. You are in that. You are doing that right now. You are in alignment with your path. There are other things as well that are around you, as well as you doing the shows, but you are on your path. You are in alignment. And it's just going to continue, and there are many, many good things. But this that you're feeling, all the starseeds are getting this too, where there are these challenges coming in as well, and you think, my goodness me, how do I hold on to this higher timeline when this keeps happening? It's 3D and 5D integration is what's happening with you and with all the starseeds. So that's. I'm sorry, I can't go. I'm looking at the time too, and I'm thinking I could answer that question for so much longer, but that's a quick answer for you.
That's beautiful, and you're doing a fantastic job, and so that's exactly what I needed to hear. I actually didn't even think I would come in with that question, but once I realized that the individual, we're all one, and my question probably does stand for others too. So
yes, it will do.
Yeah, that makes me feel very good. So.
It stands for me. It stands for me as well. I'm going through the same thing. We all are.
Oh, really?
Integration. Remember that word, integration, because that's the key to all of this.
As you said that, I mean, it makes me think about one of the people that I really work with a lot. A good friend of mine, his name is Franco Di Nicola. I've done a lot of shows with him, and he's one of the people that has taught me how to be neutral. Or, like trying to be neutral as much as possible. And also, the other thing is knowing that everything that comes up is all for a purpose. And it's a colorful world that we live in. And when we meet people that are really upsetting us, or things happen that bring up feelings for us, it's just our programming our programming
Yes.
that's coming up to be released, to be acknowledged and released. So I think when you say integration, that's the same process.
Yes, and don't try too hard to be neutral. And I'm not discrediting what this person has said by any means. Let it flow. And if it doesn't feel right to be neutral, if you want to be negative or you want to be positive, let yourself go there and explore it. And then when you've explored it and released it, then you can come back to neutrality. But if you're like, oh, I must be neutral, then that's not the place to be. Let yourself explore where you want to go. It's okay to be negative. It's okay to be positive. This is exploration that will lead to integration. Then come back to a nice, happy, contented neutrality.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. I love it. And I'm in total agreement with you. So here we are. We've had a beautiful show together.
Yes, lovely.
Thank you so much, Magenta. I'd like to ask you if there is any closing statement you'd like to offer our listeners, or if there's any announcements about things coming up where you're appearing, if you'd like to let people know about that.
Well, if you go on my website, magentapixie.com, and click on events, you can see the events, live shows, talks and things I'm doing. I'm talking locally. I wish I could fly to America and do lots of talks. I'd love to. But what I would say is, rather than going into things coming up globally, I would just talk about the energy now and tomorrow. This is a very, very powerful energy tomorrow with this full moon and this total lunar eclipse that we have, and this blood moon and this blue moon. It's really beautiful, high energy, and it is signifying, this sort of ending, not really an ending and a beginning, because that's quite dramatic, but it's a flowing of one phase into another. So you may find that you feel, if you're in tune with the energies, you may feel that you feel like there's some kind of rebirth going on. So let yourself have a rebirth tomorrow. If that means going into meditation, having a beautiful bath with all your lovely aromatherapy oils, and then stepping out and visualizing yourself reborn from your bath, or whatever ritual you want to use, there is a very powerful rebirthing energy occurring right now, and however you feel guided to experience the full moon and connect with it, it's very powerful. So I will just leave with the sort of focus on the energies tomorrow.
I love that. I love that idea. I wish I had a better bathtub to do that in. But I'm so glad you brought this up, Magenta, because yesterday I was speaking to my boyfriend, or the other day, and he was saying that it's the blood moon, and it's also the blue moon because it's the second full moon in the month. So I said, and that makes a magenta moon.
Yes, it does. I will also add that this is about amplification of what you already are. So for those that experience a lot of love and light as self, you will expand this and you will have this rebirthing, but it's going to, it's like a big mirror being held up to everybody. So that's also part of this, which could be perceived as positive or negative, depending on where you are, which is why the star seeds have been called to prepare and deal with all their issues, so that when big events like tomorrow occur, we are ready to connect with that amplification. And when they hold the mirror up, what we present to that mirror is a beautiful, balanced rebirthing and positivity.
Well, that is just beautiful, and what a great way to end the show. It's a very exciting time. Here we are at the very end of the show. We need to end. So thank you so much, Magenta Pixie, for a wonderful show, and thank you everyone for being with us. So
thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Magenta. I will be in touch with you, and we'll have you back in the future.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, much love to you, my dear. Thank you.
Much love. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye, Magenta.
Bye.
Love you. Oh, so she just said love you too. I'm sorry I cut you off right at the end there, Magenta. But we have to wrap it up. I used to have 3-hour shows, and I got used to that. So I'm going to end it here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all our beautiful listeners for being with us today. Please follow Green Heart Radio if you can click the follow tab, or go to my website, which is wholeearthhealing.com. You can also look for me on Facebook. I am Claudia Helmke Miller, and friend me. Please try to send me a note so I know who you are. Thank you for being with us. I'll be back in touch with you again soon. Have a beautiful full moon, beautiful blood moon. Much love to all.
We are now at a time in our planetary evolution known as ascension. Those individuals we can call starseeds are currently in their millions and are collectively going through this awakening process. In this book, the 9 bring forward memory triggers designed to act as a catalyst into the awakening process. They present a model of working with the individualized matrix field, known also as the Merkaba, through matrix architecture, Merkaba magic, and the golden triad of ascension, presenting an in-depth analysis and explanation of the twin flame consciousness and how this relates to the ascension, as well as providing triggers to the collective memory experience known as Atlantis. This transmission is designed to trigger your multidimensional memory as you begin the construction of the Merkaba matrix and embrace the inner archetype of the architect. The triggers contained within this material are there to assist you in accessing the codes for the new formation of the original crystalline DNA matrix. I, Magenta Pixie, am so happy to present this transmission to you from the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of 9. Divine Architecture and the Starseed Template.